Today's First Alert afternoon weather update is brought to you by Lockhart Roofing.
Good Tuesday afternoon, First Alert meteorologist Diane Phillips hanging out with you as we have another beautiful day here in mid-Michigan. I wish we could take the setup outside. That is where we should be hanging out. The best I can do is give you a live look outside. This is our camera here in Birch Run where we have that beautiful blue sky that is overhead for us. So yeah, that's where a lot of us want to be. But if you are maybe still punching the clock but hanging out with us, we're glad that you are here. And we are going to be talking about that corn crop. I know our reporter James Felton, he's kind of been talking to some of the experts in the field to see how that's going to work out for us. But also we are going to have a look at that First Alert forecast. But I know still some of our farmers are a little bit busy during the day. So if you ever need to catch a replay here, you can see that on our WNEM YouTube and Facebook page. And then also we do stream this live at WNEM.com on the TV5 News app, and then also on Roku and Fire Stick channels that we have, and then also on Android and Apple TV. You can connect with TV5 there. So there's plenty of locations that you can kind of see what we're working with. But just as I had mentioned, that corn crop, it's not exactly towards harvest season, but we have seen some reports come into our newsroom saying that we are going to be finding yields that are a little bit higher this year. But we asked, is that going to be for the state of Michigan? Because that was some national data that was coming through. And when we talked to experts, they had something to say about that. So I'm going to turn it over to the full story.
New at 5, talk about a cash crop. The USDA predicts a record high corn season, bringing in 16.7 billion bushels across the country.
That's a 13% increase from last year. But how is this year's crop looking in Michigan?
The Michigan Farm Bureau tells TV5's James Felton whether our hot and dry summer has helped or hurt.
We've been struggling some with drought. Obviously, we've got about 30% of the state is in a drought, and a lot of that is heavy corn production areas as well.
Teresa Sizung is the industry relations specialist at Michigan Farm Bureau. She tells us it's been an up and down year for Michigan's corn crop.
We planted the crop in a fairly normal time frame. We started to get a little bit later when we got wet and cold, but the wet and cold kind of started us off tough. Even though the crops were in the ground, they took a long time to come up out of the ground because the soil was wet and it was cold, and we just didn't get those nice sunny, warm days. So we got a bit of a decent start getting in the ground, but a slow start to come out of the ground. With the heat we had over the summer, the crop has kind of caught up. We're roughly right about our 5-year average in terms of condition, or in terms of progress. But the drought has really taken its toll on a lot of areas. So we're starting to see leaf curling. We're starting to see plants just starting to die.
Sizung tells us that as of last Monday, Michigan's corn crop ranked 18th of the top 18 corn growing states in the nation in good to excellent corn rating. She says the top end of the corn crop farmers in Michigan hope to have just isn't there.
I think we're going to have a decent year, but probably not the bumper crop that USDA is predicting.
James Felton, WNEM, TV5.
Farmers are hoping for consistent weather to finish out the harvest and no frost.
And of course, we are going to find that we are hoping that we don't have frost. Of course, we had a pretty cool morning yesterday, so that is going to allow for some of our farmers maybe a little bit of troublesome in some of our fields. So we are hoping that that isn't too much of a problem. But of course, we are going to find that we do have these colder mornings that are starting to settle into the forecast. So we are going to continue to keep an eye to the conditions that we have here in mid-Michigan. Some of those conditions, though, are finally going to start to warm up a little bit. As we take a live look at our forecast to get us home from school today, you are going to see that it is a touch warmer in the afternoon. So that's a big help. We're going to have temperatures that are going to be into the mid-70s, and we are finding that southwest winds kind of helping to bring in a little bit more warmer air, but also that sunshine doing a little bit of a better job. Yesterday we had full sun, but we struggled to even make 70 degrees. So we are going to find our forecast pretty good for after school, just a little bit warmer. If it's your day to do after school pickup, you are going to find that it's a nice treat to get outside. Now here's the live look on our Vehicle City Harley-Davidson camera, and you are going to see that we have plenty of sunshine here into Genesee County. We do have, of course, easy roadways to navigate with the nice weather. And what I have kind of been watching here on a lot of our cameras is if we have kind of that hazy look overhead, which we have a little bit of that, and the reason for that is some wildfire smoke has moved back in. It's been nice to kind of have a break from the smoke, but it is here. we are actually going to find that it is sitting higher up in the atmosphere. So it is higher aloft. And we are going to see that it is going to be a little bit thicker coming across the UP. So here locally, it is still on the thin side where we see some of that blue coming in. But even as we advance this forward, we still will find kind of that plume that we have just towards our west into Iowa and Minnesota. That is going to take a little bit of a further dive south. So we, though, are still working with some smoke. We are just a little bit protected here in the forecast to where we're not seeing as much of it. Now, so far, we haven't seen any of it mixed towards the ground. So the good news is that we haven't seen too many air quality alerts. Currently, our air quality index is sitting into the green for many of our sites. I know we have been very close in the Saginaw area to that moderate, sitting at about a 51, 52, 53 kind of zone. So just getting into those moderate air quality impacts. Our Detroit sensor is into the moderate as well. But something to keep in mind is that when we do have the air quality index, that's not only just measuring for wildfire smoke, that is also just doing all air pollutants as well. So that's why in some of our cities that we can kind of pick up a little bit on some air quality impacts. But so far, we've been in pretty good shape keeping that into the good category. I will bring up our near surface smoke and show you what that looks like. And just so you kind of have that peace of mind that it's not necessarily mixing towards the ground. It's that data download, so here it's finally in. You are going to see that we really don't have a lot of shading coming over mid-Michigan. So that even lasts as we go into Wednesday and Thursday. So thankfully, we aren't anticipating with the thin smoke that is overhead for that to be mixing closer towards the ground. So if you do want to get outside, air quality impacts not going to be much of a concern. You will see here that our temperatures, those are currently sitting into the 70s. So it's a very pleasant afternoon for us. We're at 73 in Flint, in Midland. We have 72 in Alma, Caro, Bad Axe, 70 degrees in Caseville. Still seeing some 60s across the shoreline, the water having a little play since a lot of our water temperatures are back into the 60s. But we also have 71 in West Branch and 69 currently into Houghton Lake. So our temperatures, we've been seeing them warm up a little bit, and I even have some warmer temperatures that are going to be coming up in that forecast. But I am going to take a real quick break and make sure that we have even the latest temperature trend coming up, and we'll be talking about that in about 60 seconds. Welcome back. We are keeping an eye to a beautiful afternoon. You are going to see temperatures are going to be into the 70s. This is kind of a really good time frame that if you have that summer to-do list and you haven't had all those tasks kind of checked off the list, here September is a pretty good month typically to where we can kind of get that to-do list done before winter starts to be knocking on our doors. So we are going to find that typically September brings us some lower humidity, but also yet some more mild days and maybe not that real big heat of the summer season. We are finding that our temperatures even today are going to be sitting into those 70s. So we are going to have a forecast that is very much comfortable for us and low humidity. So if you need to cut the grass, maybe you want to pick up some branches or some sticks in the yard, or just even maybe work on that patio setup if you have a little bit of PTO to use up here. This is a great time frame to get some of that work done, not only for today, but even as we go later this week, because high temperatures, you will probably be breaking a sweat again because those are climbing. We have our readings that are going to be into the upper 70s, lower 80s here as we go into the upcoming week. I even have 80 degrees in on Saturday. So even though those forecasted highs are at 79, we're still going to find that we have 80s here, still holding on in the forecast. They're not as strong. They're not as long duration as what we were working with through June, July, and August, but we are still seeing that we do have a more milder forecast that's coming, and also a little more September. Like the last 2 weeks has been feeling like October outside. I feel like a lot of you have already transitioned into fall because of the cooler air, but this week, definitely going to have those windows open, and maybe for some of you, you're going to click the air conditioning back on. So we are going to find that it is still September, a little taste of summer trying to hold on, but you can definitely see that the grip that summer has on the forecast is not nearly as tight as what it once was. Now, I do also want to give you a preview of the weekend forecast, because even though we do have some drier days here, we are still first alerting you to some rain chances over the weekend. So on Saturday, that seems to be our better chance of seeing some rain along a boundary, but we do have high pressure that comes in right behind it, and that can kind of eat away at some of those chances of precipitation. So right now it's just sitting at a 30%. It may have to drop a little bit. There's still some fine tuning that needs to be done into the weekend forecast once it gets a little bit closer to us and to where we can start to sample that system a little bit better with the data. But for now, we still have 80 degrees in for Saturday, 76 by Sunday, and just those isolated rain chances that we'll be monitoring for. I still anticipate that we could have yet a couple of peaks of some sunshine that comes through. So we'll be watching this forecast, and I know a lot of you are going to be watching it as well, because we do have college football games that are home. We have Michigan State that are going to be home this weekend. So if you're going to be going to maybe some of those games, or just tailgating, or maybe just having your friends out on the patio, you want to know what the forecast is going to be like. So you can keep an eye to it. With the First Alert Weather app, we'll bring up the big version here so you can get that downloaded onto your mobile devices. So this will be good for your tablet, your cell phone. It's free to download from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, so it's just a great tool to have. We actually, yesterday, we took you on a tour for a lot of our cameras to see the sunshine that we have through the area, but also we were talking about the wildfire smoke there earlier this morning. So if you weren't quite sure that it was necessarily all that hazy where you were at, we had an update come out right before noon with that information. So always some good info on the app, so make sure that you're staying connected with your First Alert weather team there. Now, tonight's temperatures are thankfully going to be a little bit warmer than what they have been the last couple of nights. No 30s, and we're actually going to try to stay out of the 40s for a couple of our counties. You'll see that we do still have some mid to upper 40s possible across our northern and centrally located counties further inland, and then right out there around the water, kind of coming out of the bay, kind of south of US 10 is where we have a better chance of seeing at least 50 degrees for a low. So we are still going to find that we have some cooler locations, but at least we're getting a little bit closer towards that average low that typically sits into the mid 50s. So we are a little bit closer to being on track for September, and it just helps that our afternoon highs are also on the same page, so we're not kind of fighting the temperatures on either side. Also a preview of our Friday Night Lights forecast, because it's never too early to take a look if you're going to the game on a Friday. Right now we're planning on a dry forecast, so this is nice. This will be our first week where we are not first alerting you to just that isolated shower chance. I know we've had a dry radar for a lot of our games, but we just had kind of that lingering rain that was coming in before kickoff, so we're happy to see this week. Keeping it nice and dry. We'll have partly cloudy skies. Also, that sunset is happening before 8 o'clock, so you can see as we get closer towards the 9 o'clock time frame that the temperatures are going to drop. Also, this one should be a little bit warmer. This is typically the weather that we would probably expect closer towards weeks 1 and week 2, but here in week 3 it seems to be that we're kind of catching up for that lost time when we're talking those mild temperatures. So we are anticipating a little bit of a warmer matchup with 70s to be possible. So parents, if you have some students who are going to be playing, make sure that they are hydrating here throughout the week. We will have southeast winds that'll be around 5 to 10 miles per hour, so it won't be nearly as breezy as what it was on last Friday night. So of course we'll have a lot of our matchups. We'll get those games coming into the Weather Center here later this week, and then we'll have all of those coming up at our First Alert desk. Later on, probably Friday, you'll want to tune in here at 2 o'clock to get a look at those, but also we do put those on the First Alert Weather app and also at WNEM.com. So if you're looking for your specific school matchup, make sure you head to all of those locations to get that. The First Alert 7-day forecast has our temperatures that are going to be into the 70s here. We will have 80s for Friday and Saturday, and still mid 70s as we get into next week. So the dry weather will hold here during the work week. We do just have those isolated shower chances as we go into Saturday and Sunday. We're watching to see how well those hold together. So if you have some outdoor plans right now, it is going to be a radar watching day, but I don't necessarily plan on it being a super soaker kind of Saturday either. It's a little more isolated on Sunday as that system starts to lift, and then even some sunshine comes in on day 7. We will also see that our overnight temperatures are starting to warm back up into the 50s, so that's a nice thing to see, is that we do have some more comfortable weather that's going to be coming back into the forecast. So if you want to sleep with those windows open, you're going to find it's a refreshing forecast during the overnight hours, but even for our students who are going to be headed to the bus stop. So we are going to find that our forecast is a little bit quiet. As I had mentioned though before, you can always check in on that First Alert weather app to get the latest information and kind of see what we're tracking. But with a quiet week, we know that maybe you're not checking in with the forecast. So if you are going to maybe just idle and let the forecast ride a little bit, just at least keep an eye to it here in your First Alert weather app. That's going to be a great place to do that. As I had mentioned before, we're always going to be hanging out here at 2 o'clock on weekdays. You can join the stream at WNEM.com and on the TV5 News app. We're also going to have the replay capabilities on our WNEM Facebook and YouTube pages. And then also, if you have a Roku or Fire Stick, make sure to download the WNEM channel, because then you can watch all of our live streams there. And also, we are streaming out to Android and Apple TV. So there's plenty of ways to connect with TV5 and make sure that you're getting the latest in your First Alert forecast. But thank you so much for joining me here this afternoon. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow right here at 2 o'clock.
Thank you for joining us. Today's stream has been brought to you by Lockhart Roofing.